Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Kevin Feige doing what I believe is some damage control ahead of Fantastic Four First Steps. Apparently, it's tracking downward, and I think part of the reason it's not doing as hot as they had anticipated is because of Superman. I think people might be going to see Superman again or for the first time instead of Fantastic Four.
Well, for me, my takeaway was he's going on and on about how Superman's indicative that there isn't superhero fatigue, which I think is the wrong takeaway entirely.
Yeah, like people aren't tired of Superman yet, but they're definitely tired of Marvel.
Right.
So,
that's when they think people talk about superhero fatigue. They're specifically talking about Marvel.
So let's talk about this. There's a lot to unpack from this interview, and it did seem like he was touching on a whole bunch of bullet points, like about the X-Men and talking about the potential reboot of the MCU after Secret Wars and all of that. And he even talks about Blade and Bo DeMeo, who's the showrunner, was the showrunner on X-Men '97, has been very critical of Kevin Feige. He calls bullshit on a lot of it. He's just like, yeah, they don't have a plan. They never had a plan. They said they have a plan. He said that Kang was, or Dr. Doom was always supposed to replace Kang. He's like, no, that's bullshit.
I don't think people are buying that.
No. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Go out to news.clownfishtv.com. Help support the channel. $5 a month. You get some paywalled content, including some exclusive podcasts. And we have a lot more podcasts coming. Working on a plan here. So check it out. News.clownfishtv.com. And check out this Pac-Man Atari collection. That's pretty cool.
He really wants this.
I really do want this.
I know what's going on your Christmas list.
Look at this. Yeah, they're bringing all the Namco stuff out. Anyway, let's talk about this. Talk about Fantastic Four first, and then we'll talk about what he says about Superman, because I think all this stuff is related. He's trying to do some defense here. But Fantastic Four box office projections are supposedly being lowered because of Superman, according to Superhero Hype. So they said they largely remained steady until Superman came out. And they said the box office projections currently have First Steps earning 125 to 145 million in the U.S., Are you sure about that? I'm not buying that. I don't feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't feel like there's nearly as much excitement around this one now as there was for Superman.
When I would ask people what one they were most looking forward to, almost always it was Superman. That doesn't mean that you can't see both, because if you went to Superman, you probably will go see this too. But for some people, it might mean either or. The
Fantastic Four have been, I mean, look, I was initially very interested in the movie. I'm still somewhat interested in the movie, but I was a huge fan of the Fantastic Four comics, and we finally got a comic accurate Galactus, and I like the retro futuristic look. That being said, not a big Pedro Pascal fan at all. Don't like the idea of the female Silver Surfer instead of Norrin Rad, and Ben Grimm with a beard, not liking it too much.
I don't know. Some of the things that are coming out of the actors' mouths made me kind of like,
that.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
again.
like, do I want to support this?
And that's why there's superhero fatigue. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
Because Marvel has been pushing, and let's be honest here, the last few years, their movies have not been great. It's hit and miss. A lot more misses than hits. And they have been, that's when they started with like phase 4 and really pushing like narratives and stuff like that. It was when the original plans ended and the new plans started. I think those new plans are mostly under Feige. And that's when we started seeing all this crap. And they also oversaturated everything between the shows and the movies. And the fact that you felt like you had to watch the shows to go see the movies and everything was interconnected and all this other stuff. I think that that's why when people say superhero fatigue, they're talking about Marvel. DC, yeah, you had some subpar stuff too, but it was not shoved down your throat to the level of Marvel. They took a break before Superman.
Yeah, this is interesting though. Not a very long break because we had like Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2 and
right, but I'm just saying there was a little bit of pause. They're redoing it, and they're not like you might get one movie here and there, but it's not like Marvel
every 3 months or something.
Yeah, 3 a year, and then the 5 shows and everything else. And they're going to cut them back, but I think damage is done at this point.
This is interesting, though, because Box Office Theory says that they're adjusting it down because they said the site believes Fantastic Four's box office performance is still continuing at an expected pace and that tracking and pre-sales fit within the usual Marvel mode. Well, that is much less than what it used to be, right?
Right.
The usual Marvel mode. People
The new normal?
The new normal. That would be probably under 100 million or maybe slightly over 100 million. But it used to be, 150 to 200 million every damn movie. And now it's just like, yeah, whatever. They said that the new numbers account for direct competition against Superman. And people are still going to see Superman. People are saying that their theaters are still full for Superman 2 weeks after the fact, a week after the fact. So, I don't know what you're talking about here, Kevin. I think this is wishful thinking. I think they're hoping that Fantastic... Now, they can blame Superman, though, too, can't they? Like, if Fantastic Four doesn't do very well, they can just be like, oh, that pesky Superman.
Well, that's why I thought it was weird they were putting it up against Superman, but that might have been their plan all along. Then you can, plausible deniability. You'd be like, it's because of that.
Yeah, it's because it's Superman. That was like... weren't they blaming the weather or something for Captain America? And they never admit fault. This is what gets me. Like, they never admit fault. They're never like, hey, yeah, maybe people are really tired of us. Maybe it's just us. Maybe they're not tired of the other companies, but it's just a Marvel thing. People are
that's what I think it is. When people talk about superhero fatigue, they're mostly referring to Marvel.
So this is you've got piratesandprincesses.net. You got the Pirates and Princesses.
Which is not working again. It was down.
Which is not working.
Days.
We were migrating hosts. Every time we do this, it's always a hassle, but I think we have it worked out. According to Variety, Feige said, and this is this huge, big ass interview he did. Look at Superman. It's clearly not superhero fatigue, right? I liked it a lot. I love you just jump right into it. You don't know who Mr. Terrific is? Tough. You'll figure it out. This is a fully fleshed out world. But he also said, we've got too much Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Which is what Iger's been saying.
Oh, yeah. We produced 50 hours of stories between 2007 and 2019. But in the 6 years since Endgame, we've had well over 100 hours of stories, and half the time that's too much. No shit.
Yeah, I know, right? And then you tie it to the fact that people feel like, they're expected to watch all these other movies and other shows to tie into the other movies, which he brings up later when he talks about Thunderbolts later, that people didn't go because they were perceived that they had to watch the shows first. That's later on, but yeah. Yeah,
and they focused on the Disney Plus expansion. Then everything was taken off, and he's like, suddenly there's a mandate to make more. And we go, well, we have more because there's all these comic book characters, but then they start scraping the bottom of the barrel. They're like, oh, let's do a series based on this D-list character. Let's,
Yeah, right. Like, you don't have to do something for every character. And even if you're pushing back Ironheart and things like that, to try to give this a more breathing room, the fact is there wasn't demand for that to begin with.
All right. You've got Feige has noticed the public's thought process and admits it while simultaneously saying it didn't matter. Yeah, here's what we're talking about Thunderbolts, right? He said, I thought it was a good movie, but nobody knew that title. Many of those characters were from a show. Some were still feeling the notion of, I guess I had to have seen these other shows to understand who this is. If you actually saw the movie, that wouldn't be the case. And we make the movie so it's not the case, but I think we still have to make sure the audience understands that. And that's the same thing with Captain America, too.
Well, I think that I mentioned that, and I think that's what they're trying to blame it on. Oh, the box office didn't well. People think they have to watch the shows first, and yes, to some extent, I think that's probably true. But I just don't think these are things people are interested in. You have characters that either people don't know who they are, or they don't want them to be there. Captain America. And also there were several characters in that movie that if you didn't watch, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you wouldn't know what was going on. And the same could be said for like the Thunderbolts. There was characters tied back to the Falcon and Winter Soldier and plot points and things where, yes, you didn't have to see it before you watched the movie because it kind of low-key explained things in the movie. But it makes a lot more sense if you watch the shows. And I think it's just overwhelming because there's just too much. And you get to eventually to a point where people coming into it are like, I can never watch all this.
Yeah.
It's too much to do. It's like comics, and they always rebooted it because there was too many, and that's basically where they said they're going with this, which was the rumor.
Yeah, so the rumor has been for years now that when we get to Secret Wars, after Secret Wars, they're going to reboot the MCU because everybody's getting older, everybody's dead, the characters are dead. Nobody cares about the current state of Marvel. And this way you could start over again with, oh, look, we've got Steve Rogers back. Oh, look, we've got, Bruce Banner back. Oh, look, we can technically make the Fantastic Four the first superhero team just like they were in the comics. Because now we have all these, we have the rights to all the characters and we can kind of start, from scratch again. And basically we can just milk it again.
I think they're going to have to make the
reboot
characters
it.
back to themselves, though. I mean, it's going to be different actors, of course, but they need to set them back. Like, you need Iron Man and not Riri Williams. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's it. People want those characters, but like, are people going to accept somebody else as Iron Man after Robert Downey Jr.?
No, probably not unless you paused it for a while. I think
Yeah.
all of this could be solved by pausing it for a while, which is what something else they brought up with the shows. They said the shows are going to try to go back to during shows that were more like the Netflix era or Agent Carter, that were characters you knew but on side stories that weren't related to the movies, because they keep tying everything to the movies and people are just tired of it. So now they're just basically trying to undo everything Feige was doing at this point, and try to like put the genie back in the bottle. And I don't know if you can. You need to take a break.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big problems I think with the way they reboot movies now is there is no rest between sets of films. Like look at Spider-Man now. I think that because contractually they had to do it that way, but they went right from the Sam Raimi movies into like a couple of years later the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And it was like, okay, that's really confusing for the audiences too. Like if there was like 10 years or 15 years between the Spider-Man movies, that would have been a little bit different. Then they ended Amazing Spider-Man sooner than they intended to, so they could turn around and do the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And so they never took a break with Spider-Man. They just kept boom, 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 boom,
right.
boom.
But I mean, even then, like there was still somewhat of a break. Like we're talking like we need to go back to like the shows from 10 years ago, but there was breaks in between. It wasn't like back then those shows were special because they weren't normal. Like now they're so overwhelming. There's so many of them, nothing special. And people are just tired of it. Like, I'm so tired of watching Marvel shows. Come on. Can we just do something new?
I can't keep up. I mean, it kind of gets that way with the comics too, with the comic books, where you could keep up with the big events when you're a kid and the comics cost $1, 75 cents or whatever. Now the comics cost $5 and you got to go buy, 30, 40 comics to figure out what the hell is going on. Mm-hmm. And I always hated the big crossovers when I was a kid because they ruined the main comics. Like, hey, I just want to read Spider-Man. Oh, okay. Well, to understand what's going on in Spider-Man, they're having like the Inferno saga or something like that. And you gotta go buy all these other comics and they're referencing all these other comics. And I get the whole cross-sell thing, but it's annoying as hell when you just want to read about one particular character and it bleeds into everything else. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you could argue that Superman was kind of that way too, where it was like, I wanted to go see a Superman movie and I got the Justice Gang.
That's true. You could argue that.
But yeah, they're talking, they're going to recast the X-Men eventually. They're talking, they're going to try to make them more comic book accurate, which would be nice, but I'll believe it when I see it. And
well, that's something else is they keep changing the characters, not just like, okay, it's not Iron Man, it's Ironheart, but they're changing characters too. That they've made character elements about them, like, oh, now this character is LGBTQ, now this character is race swapped, gender swapped, whatever, and people are tired of it. They're like, it's so much agenda.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't even know. Part of me is like, I would love to see a comic book accurate X-Men movie, but I know what they're going to do with it is they're going to go back to the more recent X-Men comics.
I was going to say, they're going to be the new comics.
Yeah, it's like, no. You give me the X-Men from the 80s, 90s, and we're good. You give me X-Men 97 as a movie, and we're good. But that's not what they're going to do. I know that's not what they're going to do.
No, they're not saying what decade of comics they're going back to.
Now, it's interesting. Bo DeMayo is calling bullshit, speaking of X-Men 97. He said that, they're this is all bullshit. Feige's like, oh yeah, we were going to pivot to Doom anyway. Even before what happened with the actor, we started to realize that Kang wasn't Thanos. There's only one character that could be that, and that was Dr. Doom. So we started talking about Doom even before we officially pivoted from Kang. In fact, I started talking with Robert about this audacious idea before Ant-Man 3 even came out. And DeMayo's like, bullshit. Absolute bullshit. I was there. They just like pulled it out of their ass at the last minute. And that's what the whole thing, like everything with Marvel feels like that. Feels like, I mean, the whole multiverse thing to me just felt like we didn't know what to do after Endgame, so let's just do everything and see what sticks. And now we're gonna undo it and close off the timeline or whatever and reboot. But I'm like, you have got to get rid of Kevin Feige at that point. Like, it's gonna be more of the same. I mean, you can reboot the universe, but you need somebody else in there. And for God's sake, you've got decades of classic stories that you can pull from. And you've been pulling from like the last 10 years, which is like the worst period to pull these storylines from.
Right.
It's like nobody
People might come back for them if you go back further.
Go back further. Go back to, the 70s, the 60s. There's so much that you could pull from. I mean, literally, Marvel could never publish another comic book. And there's so much material that they can mine for movies for decades. They'd be fine. And it's much, much better than what's been produced for the most part in the last couple of years. But that's what they're going with. Let's do Ironheart. It's like, no, nobody wants that. Go back to when things actually worked. I mean, I was hoping they were going to go back to the 80s Secret Wars, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be the more recent Secret Wars. And at that point, I'm just not interested. But we'll see. We're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
There we go, guys. I think he's making excuses, personally.
Probably. That's what I think, too.
So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.
For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.